Okay, hi everybody. Welcome back to the Amazon QuickSight Learning Series. I'm Madison. I'm the program manager of the series, and today I'm going to be hosting a demo for you all. I'm very excited about this demo. It is going to be a basketball tournament insights demo using Amazon Q with scenarios inside Amazon QuickSight. Okay, so a brief look at today's agenda. I'm going to go quickly through an introduction of Amazon Q and QuickSight and the scenarios capabilities. I'm just going to do a very high-level overview, but feel free to dive deeper with the resources that I'm going to provide at the end. I really just want to focus on the demo today. And then I'll do a demo background, so explaining the data sets, what the use cases and problem is that we're trying to solve. And then I'll run through the demo and share some learning resources. All right. Okay, so Amazon Q and QuickSight capabilities. We have not just only scenarios, but other ways that you can use Gen BI inside your use case. So what we have is a dashboard authoring experience where you can edit and build visuals using natural language. Similarly, natural language to build data storytelling, so we call that data stories. Scenarios, which I'll be showcasing today. We do on-demand question and answer with your data. So if you have any question with quick insights that you can pull through a multi-visual format, you can ask with Q. And then custom apps with AI as well. Okay, so a high-level view of Amazon Q and QuickSight's scenario capability. So what Scenarios does is it's an agentic scenario analysis. So basically, it'll guide you through a complex business problem that you have with a data set or your dashboard. And it'll give you step-by-step ways of it solving the problem, and at the end, provide you a set of recommendations based on the prompt that you've provided. And we like to say that this is purpose-built for business intelligence. So what it does is it eliminates a lot of the manual work that you would possibly have to do in other applications. And with scenarios, you can do it all inside your own environment with one-click actions and natural language querying. And what's nice about scenarios is it's reusable and extensible. So say you have a thread that you've gone down using step by step, but now you want to add something else or want to edit the thread for later. You can do so by coming back to your scenarios and find all the scenarios that you have inside your QuickSight console. So now to give a brief demo background. So every March, the top 64 basketball teams in the US compete in a tournament-style championship, and it actually starts this week. So this is why, hence we have this topic demo for this week. So this popular tournament has been around since the 1930s, with only the top 8 schools participating at that time. But since the late 1970s, it's expanded to what is now considered one of the most prestigious sporting events in the US today. And so this is the basketball tournament March Madness, which is focused on D1 NCAA schools who are in the US that compete towards a championship. All right, so some more context around why this is an interesting use case is historically these games have been highly unpredictable with things like Ken Pomeroy, who has been a very famous data analyst who uses the college basketball data that he finds, and it's widely accepted among media and fans for predicting games and analyzing team success. So he analyzes different data sets, which I'll be showing in a bit, from each game for the whole season that basketball teams have been playing, and then they'll use that to make predictions for the March Madness tournament. So there's a huge bracket competition for this tournament. Famously won is by Warren Buffett, who offers a $1 million prize pool for a perfect bracket, and it has never been completed. So hence why it might be interesting to see how AI can predict the winner. And then there's things like Blue Bloods and Cinderella stories. Blue Bloods meaning people who are historically really great at this tournament and really highly renowned basketball schools for college. And then a Cinderella story in the tournament is a school who is possibly the underdog, beating another really popular team to advance towards the end. And just another highlight here is the championship game is one of the most watched annual sporting events. So this just gives a good background of why this is interesting and something that might be really cool to see if we can get a good scenario out of this. And so now we'll look inside the data sets. Okay, so one of the data sets is the 2025 Ken Pom data, which is Ken Pomeroy's data set from this year's season. Another one is a coach data set. Maybe there's some information from the coaches that lead to more successful outcomes with basketball schools. And then lastly, a historical KenPom dataset. This is filtered through 2021 to 2024, just so that we get a better representation of students and athletes who have been participating in what would probably be this year's tournament. So I didn't want to use anything before that, but the dataset goes back to 2008. All right. Okay, so first look at the 2025 dataset. So we'll have ranks, which is 1 through 64, which is the 64 teams participating in the tournament. Conference, which is basically the region that the schools are playing in. There's metrics called adjust efficiency margin, which measures a team's average margin of victory or defeat, and it's adjusted for the strength of opponents. So basically, it accounts for how many points a team scores or allows the other team to score per 100 sessions. Then there's adjust offense efficiency, which is how many points a team scores per 100 possessions. Similarly, defense efficiency, how many points a team allows per 100 possessions. Adjust tempo, which estimates how quickly a college basketball team plays on average. And so this is also adjusted for the pace of their opponents. We have a metric called luck, which estimates how much a team's win or loss record has been impacted by things like chance. And then schedule strength. So this is an estimation of how difficult a college basketball team's schedule has been based on the quality of their opponents. Again, this is all public data set from Ken Pomeroy, and this is posted online that you can find. Okay, and then similarly, a coach data set, which has records of 312 counts of coaches. So it has the number of games that they played in the tournament under each coach's tenure at the school. And then round and final, which are these two metrics, basically saying the total number of games of all time that the coach has been in with the team. And then there's this one metric that might not make sense, but it's called top 2 seed, which is the total number of times that a coach was ranked a top 2 seed in the tournament. And seeds are ranked from 1 to 16. Okay, and then lastly, the KenPom dataset, which is the historical dataset. So it has seed, which is again 1 through 64 for the 64 teams participating. 1 is the best, 64 being the worst. There's field goal, which is the points scored in a play by a team. This is meant to say free throw here, but that's the points scored due to a foul and a player shoots the ball into the basketball net. Turnover and turnover forced, when the ball is stolen or taken from the team who begins with the ball in play. Rebound offense, so the percent of times that the team with the ball reclaims it after missing a basket. Similarly, rebound defense, the percent of times that a team gets the ball after the other team misses a basket. And then these two metrics, block or blocked, which is the percent of time a team prevents a basket or gets the ball and prevents the other team from getting a basket. And then this last one that might be unexpected is expected win percent of bubble teams, which is the percent of a team to win if they are about to be dropped from the tournament. So these are some interesting metrics to just keep in the back of your mind while we're going through this demo. All right. Okay, so now I'm going to switch screens. I know I ran through that information a little bit quickly, but hopefully that just gives you a good background of what you might see as metrics in this data set and through the scenarios. But I'll go ahead and switch screens now. Okay, so everybody should be seeing my screen now. So I'm going to go ahead and start with this dashboard that I have in my QuickSight account. We'll go through all of the sheets and then we'll enter the scenario analysis. Okay, so this first sheet here is using the historical KenPom data. I filtered the data through this year, and then as you can see here, all the conferences that are included. Right here is the team talent ranked. So the higher word bubbles are the teams with most talent and smaller ones least talent. Here's years of experience by conference. Similarly, percent of games an elite conference can win. And then we have some data points on scored above team average. So there's some good ones from Purdue and Texas. We have one which is the sum of appearances in March Madness, so that's pretty interesting. And then I have a huge data set at the bottom. For coaches, I have this table here. So rows highlighted in green means that coaches have won at least one tournament. So I'll kind of go through the ones here, see one from North Carolina, Kentucky, Kansas, one from Rhode Island, UConn, two coaches under UConn, UVA, Villanova. Right, none from those schools. But let's see if we drill into one, what that might show on the data set, or sorry, on the dashboard. So I'm gonna go ahead and pick this coach for Duke. And then here you can see it's filtered the other visuals for the specific stats under Mike. So game played versus points scored. So you can see Kentucky's pretty good, Kansas, Gonzaga, Duke, Villanova. Right. And then for 2025 stats, so we have team schedule strength, which is ranked. Alabama, the strongest. Total win percent and total luck by team and conference. So that's pretty interesting. We can see there's some standout ones, VCU, Gonzaga, Duke, Drake. And then some team schedule and game winning stats. So rows highlighted in light blue indicates schedule strength of 10 or higher. So interestingly, the ones that are double rows highlighted or double columns in blue. So like Auburn here, that's a really good sign. And then we have percent win by conference. But let's enter the scenario. All right, so I'm going to start with my question. I want to use the KenPom data in this year's 2025 season to predict which team will win the basketball tournament based on skill, historical team wins, and game stats. And then I'll just add my data. All right, so I'm going to pick which visuals are relevant to me for this prompt. Definitely talent. I think this one will be good as well. Definitely want to have gameplay stats. I think round of appearances might be interesting. And I'm going to skip coach for now. And then I'll just do, let's see. Yep, total win percent. Schedule strength, definitely. Definitely want this schedule strength one as well for non-conference. And then team performance ratings. Let's also do luck. Let's add that as well. All right, okay, so this is a preview of my data sets that I've added in the relevant fields. So as you can see here, highlights the fields that I've picked. And now I'm just gonna add this data. So in the background here, Q is getting those data sets to upload and pulling out what's relevant into what I put as my prompt. So again, we're using tournament based on skill, historical team wins, and game stats. Okay, and then, so now what it's doing here is it's going to provide me relevant suggestions it thinks that I might want to explore, rather than just giving me an answer straight away. Because maybe it has something that I haven't thought of before that maybe I'll want to dive into deeper with the suggested questions it has. Okay, so let's take a look here. I see what is the average talent score for teams that reach the Final Four, which statistical factors correlate the most strongly with teams advancing to later rounds. That's pretty interesting. Compare win percent average or adjust efficiency, and then what's the average schedule strength. I think I want to do this. Let's see. I'm gonna go ahead and pick this second one. I definitely think we'll want some statistical facts about the gameplay, so 3-point percent and rebound offense percent, which correlate most. That seems the most relevant to my prompt in the beginning. So let's see what Q pulls up here. And now it's just generating my data sets prompt and then in correlation with this question that it has here to pull out some insights. And we'll be able to see that step-by-step analysis. Okay, so step one, combine the two data sets we have to create a comprehensive view of each team's stats. All right, so that's great. It shows me there's this merged data set, now contains various statistical factors, alongside the performance for each team, allowing for analysis of correlations between these factors and tournament success. Okay, so that's pretty interesting. And let's see what else it generates. Okay, so I see a question in the chat here. I will come back to that, Kelvin, at the end. Okay, so I see step 2 is cleaning up the combined data set to make sure it's ready for analysis. Yeah, because I see here there's a couple duplications for Alabama. But again, this is the original merged data set. And then this is a step 2. Okay, so it still looks like there's a bit of duplications. But it says that this data set has been verified and is clean with no missing values or duplicates. Okay, interesting. All numerical columns. Oops, let me go back up. Okay, so let's see. We'll just go ahead and see if it continues to create the analysis, and if there's any mistakes, we'll make a popover. Okay, for step 3, create a new column that clearly shows tournament progress. So this scales from 1 to 6, the first round to the championship game, and this interprets team performance in relation to tournament advancement. All right, and I see that progress here. And so I'm seeing that they're different for each school because I see there's 3 Alabamas, but tournament progress is different numbers. So that indicates to me that it's talking about different years for the schools. And so maybe it's just using that historical data set that we had. All right. So step 4, analyze how strongly each statistical factor is related to a team's tournament success. Okay, so the analysis reveals varying degrees of correlation. Factors showing positive correlations with tournament advancement are points above team average, talent, and adjusted efficiency margin. And we can see those correlations here. All right, and it looks like it's ranking them from highest to lowest integer. Okay, and then I like this chart here. So we can see the huge differences. And I think if I scroll down, yeah, we'll see large ones here. So we can see talent, adjusted efficiency, and points above team average, which that is kind of a given. But I think talent and adjusted efficiency are really interesting to me to analyze further. Okay, and then it looks like it's already generated our step 5. Okay, so let's see. Create a visual representation of how different factors relate to tournament success, highlighting the most important factors. Okay, so let's see. It's probably going to pull out the 2 factors that I've said. And we have this nice graph here. So it says, like I saw before, points above team average shows strongest, then talent, and then adjusted efficiency margin. Interestingly, adjusted defense efficiency has notable negative correlation. And that actually makes sense because with that value defense efficiency, we would expect a negative correlation. So that makes sense to me. And so I think those 4 metrics are probably most interesting to analyze next. So that's great. And now it's just giving me some more data points to analyze all of these metrics. Looks like it's giving me a visual for each one. So tournament progress based on all of these different metrics it's highlighted. Okay, so this is interesting, but I don't think it's super compelling to me right now. But I do like this new data set that it's created. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on to step 7. Hopefully this will bring some really interesting insights. So it's going to provide a clear summary of which factors seem to be most important. All right, and it's analyzed the 2025 March Madness data. Okay, so showing again, points above team average, this is strongest positive correlation. So teams that consistently outperform their average are more likely to advance further. That makes sense to me. Second is talent. This underscores the importance of recruitment. Also makes sense. Adjusted efficiency margin, suggesting well-rounded teams with strong offense and defense. Again, that makes sense to me. Sounds good. And then lastly, The highlights this critical role of strong defense in the tournament. Yes. Okay, so I think these four have definitely helped me narrow down what I'd like to analyze further. And I think I'm going to do that in my next question. So now let's see here. These findings have several impacts. So clutch performance, talent development. We have a balanced approach. The strong correlation suggests teams should strive for excellence in both offense, defense. That makes sense. Defensive focus, benefit from emphasizing defensive drills. All right, that's not technically relevant to my prediction here, but good to know. And then coaches preparing for the tournament might consider adjusting their strategies. Okay. Teams and coaches who can balance these elements are likely to have a better chance. Okay. So I think I've narrowed down the four elements that I want to analyze here. So I'm going to go ahead and keep on drilling in. So I'm going to say which teams from this year have the highest talent and adjusted efficiency and lowest defense efficiency. And so I think this is a great combination of everything we just saw with Q answering to help me narrow down my suggestions to hopefully get a list of specific teams who have that to say if I wanted to put those teams in my bracket that they'd be going the furthest. So let's see what Q pulls up. All right, I like this a lot more. It's giving me some very explicit teams here. So this first one says Duke leads in both talent and adjusted efficiency margin. Talent is very close to 100%, so that's cool. While Houston has the best defense efficiency, interesting. North Carolina, Indiana round out the top three in talent, while Florida and Houston complete the top three. Okay, so interesting. Houston's mentioned a couple times there. I see here that we see Duke a few times in these data sets. So one for the efficiency, defense, talent, and then let's see, there's a bit more duplication. So yeah, the Duke one. Duke is actually in all three, so that's a huge indicator. Houston, I think just in these two. Yes, so just defense and efficiency. Let's see, Tennessee just in the defense. Oh, but here, great. So we see these all ranked by school. So that's really cool. I think this one has helped me narrow down a lot more which schools that I want to do, but now I'm going to start another thread and say I'm just interested in Big Ten schools because I think those have a lot of promise. So now I just want to focus on Big Ten schools. So I'm asking the question here to Q of which ones I think will be winning the tournament based on their schedule and talent. And let's see what that pulls up. And for those who don't know, Big Ten schools are mainly in the Midwest, but have recently incorporated schools on the West Coast as well. Okay, so first step, we'll identify all Big Ten teams in our data. So we'll see what that pulls out. And I'm seeing some good comments in the chat, some private questions. I will ask those at the end. But these outputs, I'm not able to send the output, but the recording will be on YouTube and on our channel end of the week. So I would not say that you should be highly influenced in your bracket to put whatever the output is, but I think it would be very interesting to be well informed for your bracket if you're making one. So let's see. Okay, so it tells me that it's going to use the cell name B10 to identify Big Ten, and I do know that's correct from my data set. We don't have a term called Big Ten, it's just used B10 for abbreviation. So that's great that it called that out. Okay, step 2, we'll gather important information about the non-conference schedule, strength, and talent. All right, I see it's made this new column here where it says tournament success score, so that's awesome. It's providing a relative measure for their potential tournament performance. Okay, so that's really cool. It's did that calculation in that background. Let's see here. Okay, so I'm noticing actually that it did not pick up the West Coast schools that have been added this year. But let's continue to go down this thread. I'm gonna reiterate on this and include those West Coast schools to be included in the Big Ten. So let's just continue going on and then I will modify this block. All right. Okay. So we see here Michigan State leads with tournament success score, right? That makes sense. Closely followed by Illinois, and they have a good balance of efficiency of defense and offense, which I can see here. And then we see these success metrics. So Maryland's looks pretty good for efficiency. Illinois, Michigan also looks pretty good. And then overall strength. So it looks like Illinois has the highest. And it looks like Maryland's was kind of poor. All right, and then step 4, we have this summary. So let's see what it says. Okay, so Michigan State, first highlight, is leading the pack. I definitely see that here, indicating strong profile for tournament success. So Illinois is the second school that it's recommended, but I really just want to rerun this and add in the West Coast schools because those are also going to be shown in the tournament. I know UCLA is involved and Oregon, so I also want to add those, and then I'll just throw in USC there. But let's see. All right. And then let's go ahead and rerun this. So now what Q should be doing is picking up the Big Ten schools it's originally had and then adding UCLA, USC, and Oregon to the data set, and then reanalyzing how it's going to contribute to the talent and non-conference schedule. Okay, so it's done exactly that. It expanded the data set to include those West Coast schools and the Big Ten teams. Okay, it's confirmed that those schools exist, so we'll proceed with filtering. It's going to include those in the Big Ten. Okay, gathering the key performance metrics, that's great. And now let's see what this output says. Maybe it'll be different, although I don't think UCLA, USC, or Oregon are performing better than Michigan State and some of the other Big Ten schools, but we'll see. All right, so new data set has been outputted. Okay, let's see. So it's looking like it's created that conference column for B10. Let's see if it's added the other schools to B10. So we're looking for the UCLA, USC, and Oregon additions. And then we see some other metrics here for win percent, efficiency, and offense. Let's scroll down. Yep, awesome. They were included, so that's great. Okay, Illinois is leading with tournament success, followed by Michigan State, which is strange because we saw Michigan State was the highest here, but it's saying that Illinois is leading, so that's a bit interesting. And then we see that Michigan is third. Okay, and then I'm just confirming that data, which is here. So it's just rounding, but yep, makes sense. Yeah, it looks like they're just rounding to 0.8. Okay, so then step 3, we're comparing the strengths and weaknesses. Okay, showing only the top 7 teams. So Michigan State has the highest win percent, while Illinois has highest offense. And I can see that the top 7 did not include any of those West Coast schools. So interesting, but I'm glad I reran that analysis. And then we see the similar visuals from before, comparing all the different metrics. So again, Michigan State is looking very promising, Illinois as well, maybe Maryland, but Maryland's non-conference strength is not very good, so maybe not Maryland. And I just want to show that you can also regenerate the visual to show descending or ascending. And then here's this last filtered data set that it's created based on the top 7. All right, so now we have our summary. Okay, again, it's highlighting the top 3. So Michigan State, we saw before, Illinois, and then Michigan. And so now it's giving me this comparison with the West Coast schools. It says they don't have full data in this subset, but it's showing that the top Big Ten teams are currently better than the other 3. Makes sense with this year's performance. Key strengths and potential challenges. Okay, so Michigan State's, Illinois, they have a lower win percentage. Michigan's, they do have a good non-conference schedule strength. Okay, that's good. It's saying that there's a wide range, but in conclusion, the two Michigan schools in Illinois will probably be the strongest contenders in the Big Ten. Okay, awesome. So I'm going to keep that in the back of my mind. But now let's enter in some shooting splits data. Okay, so I'm adding in this shooting splits from this year, and I'm going to use that as additional information for gameplay stats to see if anything else comes from this. All right, so let's use this to see if we find any insights for more talented teams that are likely to win the tournament. And I think that's a pretty good question. So I'm hoping with this that it provides me something more that happens in the gameplay that's not based on talent and schedule strength. And we'll see if that has any more insights than what it's providing, which would be interesting to see. And again, this is going to be going down the same thread as the Big Ten data, so it should only pull up relevant schools for Big Ten. Okay, right. And so it's saying in step one here, it's confirming that it's pulling out the statistics of previously identified top teams and other highly talented teams. Okay, so that's interesting. I think it'll give me Big Ten teams as well as teams it thinks that are going to have high talent during gameplay. So let's see what it finds. All right, and I see some good comments from Lee here. Great demo. Thanks, Lee. Appreciate that. Okay. So it's saying that this data set is giving me details on shooting statistics from percentage and rankings for various shot types. So it's also telling me it's going to merge the data with the previously identified top contenders and their talent ratings or tournament success scores. Okay, cool. So it's also giving me that info at the end that I can edit the block through popover to include this merge step. I'm going to go ahead and skip that, but I like that it's giving me the option that if I wanted to see that step happen, I could. So that's great feedback between myself and the Gen BI tool that I just wanted to highlight there. Okay, so step two. We'll combine our shooting statistics data with the information about top performing teams from the previous analysis. That's great. So now we're seeing this refined data set here, which is showing the shooting statistics. Again, it's also saying that Michigan State, Illinois, and Michigan have strong overall performance for shooting. Illinois excels in close 2-point shots. All right, it's ranked 22nd of, I'm assuming, the 64 teams. Or that might not be right because Michigan is strong in 3 points, ranked 85th. So it must be all the teams in the NCAA. But that's definitely interesting. The close 2-point shots here and 3-point. And I do know that for a fact the NBA has been focused on 3-point shots, but I believe that college basketball, in my opinion, I think will be more focused on close twos. So I think that's a good metric that it's pulled out. All right, and then showing me some top teams here, Indiana, Michigan State, Iowa, Nebraska. Those are interesting ones. And then let's see, it's showing me some varying success between talent, tournament scores. Michigan shows the highest overall shooting score from these top teams. Indiana has the highest talent rating, but lower tournament success. All right, so that might be some metric that I'll have in the background. Again, some more comparisons between the visuals of these metrics. And it is really looking like Michigan State is being a standout amongst the Big Ten. So I think I'm going to keep that in the back of my mind while I continue on with this scenario. And then let's see, I'll just wait for that to generate for step 4 at the bottom, but this is what the data set looks like that it's generated. And those are the top metrics and calculations that it's made. Okay. So now we have our top contenders that are reaffirmed. Again, those 3, Michigan, Michigan State, and Illinois. Seems like I should maybe really put those in my bracket. And then it's giving me some of the callouts between its overall shooting score and success score. So Michigan's interesting. They have the highest overall shooting score. Their exceptional shooting efficiency could be a key factor. All right. Indiana is a dark horse. Okay, that's interesting. Tells me there's potential impact of shooting efficiency and success. Okay. Um, that looks interesting, but I don't know if it's telling me anything new. And then there's some defense highlights. So Indiana and Illinois lead. Okay. Michigan State's lower score compared to high tournament success score suggests they may rely on offense. Okay, that could be fair. And then let's see, conclusion. Looks like it's giving me pretty much the same information that I know about Michigan State, Michigan, and Illinois. All right, I'm going to go back to this thread now, and I want to continue down here. So now I'm going to compare the top 5 teams in this thread with talent and efficiency to see which are also the best in shooting splits. And let's see who will go the furthest in the tournament. And so now that I have the shooting splits data set uploaded into my scenario, Q should be able to use that into this thread as well to give me some more insights based on the teams that I've seen here. So again, refresher, these teams were like Duke, Houston I saw a couple times. I think Tennessee we saw once. And so we'll see what that pulls out. Okay. Let's start by finding the top 5 teams in talent and efficiency, and that'll give us a good starting point for our analysis. All right, so I'm expecting, again, the teams that I've said before because we saw that from above. So let's see if it pulls that out again. Okay, so it's now combined data for unique 9 teams. So North Carolina, Houston, UCLA advanced furthest in the tournament among these top teams. So those are quote unquote like blue blood schools. They reached at least the Sweet 16 3 times. So I'm assuming here it's using the historical data set from KenPom data to get this analysis. And so let's see. Well, I do see Duke, Houston, Tennessee, North Carolina, UCLA, Memphis, Auburn, Indiana, and Florida. All right, so historically these must be what I'm going to say blue blood schools. And I see that their ratings for some gameplay stats on the right here and the tournament progress. All right, so that looks pretty good. And then step 2, we'll create a visual representation showing how different shooting percentages relate to success. Okay, this will be interesting because I want to compare the teams between each other. And I only want the top teams, so this is great. And it's showing me other factors besides efficiency, so that's cool. So we'll see tournament progress. Looks like, what's the top one here? UCLA has been ranked the highest with Houston and North Carolina. Duke is up there, has high dunks percent, which is cool. And then some other ones. Let's see. Again, UCLA, Houston, and North Carolina progressed the furthest, but their shooting average is still not as high as Duke. So Duke seems to be kind of dominating in this area. Duke's a bit lower here for close 2%, which is a metric I said was important in this tournament. Houston and UCLA look pretty good. Let's see. Bar twos. Talent. Okay, so let's go back to FAR twos. Oh, let's just see. Okay, I just want to verify. Yeah. Okay, so I'm mainly just looking at Duke here. So the tournament progress, adjust efficiency. All right. Okay, so it kind of looks like Duke is the standout so far, but let's see what the analysis says in the summary. Okay, so for dunks percentage, there's a positive correlation between dunks and tournament success. Duke has higher dunk percentage, which reached Elite 8, while Houston and UCLA reached Sweet 16. 3-point shooting, so it looks like, again, Duke has the highest, only reached Elite 8, while Houston, North Carolina reached Sweet 16. Let's see, continuing on here, we have adjusted efficiency margin. So again, we have Duke, North Carolina, UCLA. Balanced shooting is Houston, North Carolina, UCLA. So that's pretty interesting. Importance of inside scoring, again, like I was saying, like close twos. 3-point shooting is not decisive. Yep, that's fair. This isn't NBA, it's college basketball. We see some outliers. So again, Duke is interesting, but the highlights, while these metrics are important, also play a crucial role. So coaching, yeah. And then strategies for predicting tournament success. So those are kind of reiterating what we've already found out, which is basically that Duke has done really well, and I should put them in my bracket. But now let's see if we can explore just one more thread here. And so this last one, I'm going to say, use the 2025 data set to pick out the top 5 teams based on talent, efficiency, and shooting splits. And that's kind of everything that we've combined here from the other 2 threads that we went down. And those are the 3 things that I want to focus on, because I think those will be the 3 most important metrics for this season based on everything that I've looked through. And so now what I want to just focus on is how the 2025 season has went with gameplay between the schools that were ranked 1 through 64 to pick out the best teams. And hopefully this will give us kind of a great overview of what we've done and the conclusion that we're going to come to at the end, which is hopefully narrowing down some teams that Q has determined will be successful. All right, and great first step, combining all of our data from different sources into a single data set. So it's combining, or it's merging different data sets that we've already uploaded. It's identifying the top 5 schools. So we can see here Duke listed many times, Florida and Houston I see. And then let's keep going. Tennessee, Iowa, Arizona, Baylor. Whoop, sorry, I went too far. And then let's wait for this step 2. Okay, so select the most important statistics that represent a team's talent, efficiency, and shooting ability. All right. Okay, so it's showing that it's putting the metrics into a single score, allows for holistic evaluation for each team's potential to win the championship. So these data sets are going to be more refined based on that evaluation that it's making, which is great. And I'm seeing some pretty good potential schools for winning the tournament here. And it's showing that combination of data in this one data set. So that's awesome. And some final scores, which is the one that is calculated with all those metrics. Okay, step 3, create a chart to visually represent the top 5 teams and their scores and summarize the findings. All right, so this is the best part, I think. I'm seeing right away that it's giving me top 5 teams. So Duke, Gonzaga, Houston, Arizona, and Auburn. Looks like Houston has the best talent and possibly efficiency score. And yeah, Duke's efficiency is the highest. And then it's comparing some other metrics against each other with those 5 schools. So it looks like Duke and Auburn have the highest adjusted offense. And then some shooting split scores. Again, Duke is looking really good here. And then this final data set, which it's given. Okay. Yeah, okay. So it didn't give me recommendations for this last thread here, but from what I'm seeing is these top 5 schools that it's pulled out on the bottom are definitely the ones that I want to invest in into a bracket if I'm doing that. And it looks like it's giving me some really interesting data set or some data on the shooting splits, which I definitely think play a huge role in this tournament. But from what I want to take away with this is that scenarios allowed me to, 1, narrow down the metrics that I should focus on, which we saw was talent, efficiency, and then I chose shooting splits, but defense and offense efficiency. And then it gave me a good comprehensive analysis of the different schools from one conference that I was interested in, a holistic view, and then a final recommendation based on the 2025 season.